I can't believe I waited this long to do this. Quite some time ago, when I first pulled these drums off the car, I'm sure it's in one of my videos somewhere, I knew that I wanted to replace them, and I went out and looked for good options and found insane prices. And when I mean insane, I considered just doing disc brake conversion, to spend a little bit more. What I recently learned was that somehow I was looking at the drums from the next line down, older cars. More uncommon, more money. So I went looking again and found much more reasonable prices, and decided to buy a set. So the first ones I looked at and decided, okay, that's inexpensive enough for my cheap self. But I kept looking, and I found these for just a little bit more, $10 each more, something like that, $20 total maybe. And I just felt a little bit better about them. So, I'm certainly no expert, but I've seen a lot of things made from steel, and been around people who know what they're talking about, and picked up some things. And to me, this looks like a quality piece of steel. Never mind the machining, just right up front. It looks like a high grade of steel to me. The machining is pretty nice. So this outer lip here, whatever you want to call it, is machined, and they're going around this cast piece, I'm sure, and it's going to be a little bit off, and so they have to make some transgressions, and so it's a little bit thicker cut on this side than this side, but not by a lot. And everywhere else it's kind of even. They did a very, very good job with setup before ever doing that machining operation. And I would bet that the piece did not move between that cut and this cut down here. It's the same thing. And I imagine if I, measured into here from this, outside lip, I would find that it's pretty darn uniform all the way around. Visually, yeah, it absolutely is. So splines look really, really good. The teeth are cut with a high degree of precision. Whatever they're using to cut those is not worn out. I couldn't be happier. Can't wait to put them on. When I decided I was gonna do the new brake shoes and eventually then the new drums, when I realized that we were not gonna be able to cut these drums, I just decided to leave the car right where it is. And it kept leaking a little bit, but I thought I had it, pretty well knocked out for not leaking. Decided to put this towel back here just in case. Real happy I did that, because it just gets to be a hassle when it gets to the line, where the door is on it and the rubber, and then the rubber picks up the oil and then it's dripping as it comes up. And anyway, it was a good thing I did that. Yeah, because I think I lost all of the oil. I'm not really sure why. I'm going to be looking at that. Now that this is back on the road, I could, in theory, take the time, which I'd very much love to do, pull that transmission. Might as well pull the engine and the transmission, whole thing, and see if it looks like it's just the nose cone gasket or if there's anything else that I should do. But I know whenever I fill it up to the top, I drip for a while and then I stop dripping for the most part. And so I think it just reaches a certain level where it hasn't breached the gasket, if you will. When I put these back on to try to stop the oil from leaking, I didn't put much pressure on this nut, but it's not turning easily with this, so hopefully there's enough air in the tank. I imagine there is. Other way. Yeah. Get that other side real quick. Now, electric is really nice, and I would love to have some. But what I do have is this, and I'm going to tell you, there's something more satisfying about it. It feels like a hot rod in your hand. It sounds like one, you know? The electric is very cool. It has all kinds of power. It's very efficient, too. But it just doesn't have that sound. E-brake off. Cheap crap. Regular packing paper. Worked pretty good. Yeah, even these are getting cleaned and greased. So, what's the first step in installing the pads? Checking them against the pads you already have and making sure they match. And they seem to. I'm gonna move this arm over. This clip right here, it kind of gives out at these tips and they spread out. And then I kind of feel like you have to squeeze them back together when you put it back on. Overkill? Well, maybe, but get my fattest tip to get the best purchase on this thing. That's what I'm thinking. All right, I've twisted the clip around so I can drive in. Got a relatively soft-faced hammer. Same way. Not like that. Smooth side of the clip down. No reason I want that digging in, making it harder on me. And now I'll have to squeeze these together because they're too far apart now. It'll fall off easily. Significantly closer. You think my old drum might have been out of round? Just maybe. Okay, I had forgotten that I had let this ride before. This needs to be replaced. So the rotation on this is really good, very smooth. And it positively interfaces with this tab here. Sometimes these tabs will get bent down. This is really good. I like it's a just real clean twist. These screws are slotted on an angle. See how narrow that bottom is? How much thicker that side is? It's going to interface with this. So you put it like that. See how the screw goes pretty much straight out. Flip it over, put it flat up against there. See the angle now? Fairly obviously wrong. So you want it like this, where the narrower or the deeper cut is at the top. And that's the way this one is presently. This is a relatively easy thing to do that tends to wind up being a lot harder than it should sometimes. So we'll just twist this around so that the flat part can come through. Don't squeeze down on the post in the center, and just push back with your jaws, your plier jaws. Grab that thing and twist it. See? This key has some pretty rough burrs on the side, so I'm just going to take a file to it. We know we've got everything oriented properly because this cable here comes from that direction, which means that it's going to get pulled in this way when you pull on your e-brake, which is going to pull this back. You see that spot back in there? Are these two pieces of metal are sandwiched together and they stick out different lengths from one another? Oh, we got to consider that when we put this in place too. This side has 2 slots, this side only has 1. Guess what? It goes a particular way, and it's important whether it goes that way or that way. So we have to look at that. This one sticks out further. And that's the way that works. When we pull on this handle, it forces this bar to try to move outward, thus exerting pressure outward. All right, I know I've done this before, but these are, you know, whatever, 60 years old. Who knows? Might not have been the original on this car, but, you know, 40 to 60 years old at least. And look at how good those edges look. Now, these, they could be a year old, who knows? I mean, they're not really a year old, but, and already all jagged and jacked up, had to take a file to them, and whatever the heck this thing is supposed to be. I mean, it's just garbage. So I'll take all this old gear right here every day, if I can find it. Do this on the ground. We got one last spring. Used some brake clean and got the grease out of here. And it is hitting my pads, so I need to take them in a bit. Still interfering. Still a bit tight, but we can fix that. And that's why we have this extra hole in the drum, so we can put a screwdriver in here and adjust this. There's a certain amount of drag that is to be expected before break-in. Basically what I do is I run this out until it's kind of hard to move this, and then I back it off until it's generally a whole lot easier. You do the same thing on the other side and wind up with this. Take it out for a drive, let it break in, come back, do some adjustments. I had just a bit of a burr that had raised up along the edge here. which was causing a binding in this groove that it needs to be able to push into. So you can see where it's actually hitting here, but it wasn't able to. It would only get about that far in, and then that burr would grab. So we need that to be able to be smooth. I've already shown the left side operation, so I don't need to show you all the same stuff again. However, and this is something that I did have to look up because it was freaking me out. And I've just never had to do this before, apparently. Or I did it wrong, or, you know, got lucky. But, okay, so the 2 slots needs to go to this side because this has your arm here, and this one doesn't. So single slot on this side. And on the other side, it would be like this, so that this cup shape is pointing up, and you can just lay your spring into that cup shape. Volkswagen did not make a left and a right side for this bar. So in order to have this be proper, the cup is upside down, and you simply put your spring over the top of this, which is goofy, but that's the way it works. So that's what it looks like once we get it all in place. It just looks a little weird compared to the other side, but that's the way it's supposed to be. Except for these crappy clips that I'd love to replace with something 60 years old that works better. Lugs are snug. Used what air I had left in my tank to get the axle nuts on. I'll drop it down, torque the lugs, hammer down some more on that axle nut, put the cotter pin in, and we'll go. All right, it's time for 85 foot-pounds all the way around. All right, it's been a while since I've started this thing. Come on, baby. Gonna get heavy-handed here. Almost there. Now I should clarify that when I said I needed to go get heavy-handed, what that entails is pulling the lid off, looking at everything. Yeah, there's fuel in the fuel filter, everything looks fine. Come back, try again. Really, it's a time thing. You just kind of have to give it enough time. I'm gonna go close it up, and in a minute here I'll get a test drive. Oh, that pedal, it's so high. Oh yes. Oh my goodness. I don't know the last time I experienced brakes so good in a classic Volkswagen. I may never have. Alright, let's see what happens here when I need to take this turn. It sure doesn't mind slowing down. My goodness, this is amazing. You can just hear those pads settling in. Seem to have a Vanagon up here from Oregon. I'm gonna have to come take a look at that in a minute. All right. This is ridiculous. It's so good. I was thinking I might need to make some adjustments after the initial drive, but kind of thinking I might not need to. I'll make sure to listen, you know, rotate the wheels and make sure I'm not hearing it scraping all the time or anything. But close my hood too. Oh my goodness. These brakes are so good. Safety first. Always. You know. Always. Alright, here it comes. Big brake. Big braking. Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't need to stop nearly as early as I would think. So wonderful. Oh, I can't believe I waited this long to do this. I mean, I can believe it, but you know, I shouldn't be able to believe it. Something, I don't know. Certainly shouldn't have done it. Well, couldn't be happier. I consider that to be a serious success, and my wife should be happier. I'm going to be that much more safe on the road. This is awesome. Calling this one good. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all the things. I've got a lot more content coming. I've got a lot of stuff that I need to produce. I've already got the footage, and there's a lot more things that need to be done too. So keep watching.